Phil,
Hey, Rich.
how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Yourself?
Good. So what's going on tonight, man? You're struggling. You're saying super beta in recovery. What does that mean? What's a super beta in
I'll
recovery?
use a I'll use a story. So I'm one of the products of a single mother household, right?
Mm,
Didn't have a father. Mom went through boyfriends, had stepfathers, one that actually abused us a little bit and stuff. So when I say super beta in recovery, I mean like my whole, let's say, belief system and identity is rooted in beta-ness, right? Like as
mm,
you hear it over and over again. A quick story is I went to a strip club in my early 20s, bought a lap dance, and told the stripper how she should better her life. Like
mm.
kind of looking back, like just for reference, right? Like you look back on these things and you're like, holy fuck.
Yeah.
Um, just went through a bad breakup and stuff too about 8 months ago. So dealing with all that. But I mean, I've used it as fuel, right?
Mm.
Like I absolutely crushing the gym, all that stuff, but I still am not seeing results. So
Okay.
I'm kind of like you, where like I'm results. I'm like, okay, I'm doing what Rich is saying. I joined the 10% community, like all those things.
Okay.
But I'm still not seeing, like I get the choosing signals, but I'm like, I know it's probably something mentality wise that I'm struggling with kind of what we discussed, where my beta mind is like, be nice, be
Mm,
caring, do all these things.
mm.
So I guess my question for you is like, how do you hack that? You know what I mean? Like I listen to your podcast. I'm doing the seven spokes like to the best of my ability, but there's that area that it's frustrating as fuck, right?
So I got Moff and Jaren in the chat. They obviously recognize you. So have you talked to them yet?
Not necessarily directly know about it, no,
Okay.
but
So so the ask here is how do you fix how do you kill the beta? Like, is that what we're asking?
yeah, I mean, like the mindset side of it, like, because I'm doing a lot of at least in my opinion, what I've heard you say over and over again,
Mhm.
but the battle is real, right?
How
Like
old are you?
33,
So how recently did you come across like my content, my podcast, my book, all that stuff?
mm, 4 months, 5 months.
Yeah, so you got like 32 years and a whole bunch of months of programming in
Yeah,
a condition that you're comfortable with, right? So you have to find time, and you have to find it within yourself. Like, a lot of people will go and they'll be like, I'll watch a video and all of a sudden, yeah, I've red pilled, or they read my book. It's like, yes, I've unplugged from the matrix. I am now a free man. But most of them will go back. Most of them struggle. Most of them um, do revert back to their old beta tendencies because it's a lot more comfortable. Because I mean, like, the reality of it is that, like, it boils down to this, man. Somebody said to me a long time ago, you can either love women or you can understand them, but you really can't do both. And it's like, I'm the guy that puts out these podcasts every week. Like, I've got 82 episodes, the Unplugged Alpha. I have 100 episodes of Before the Train Wreck. The first half of the episodes I did with Before the Train Wreck, I did with a clinical psychologist who's also pretty red pill too. I've got all these other videos on my Entrepreneurs and Cars channel. And even me, I still have to deal with shit from time to time, right? With my LTR. And it's like, you're you're going to struggle with it, dude. You're just going to struggle with it because you grew up on a steady diet of be a nice guy, be a shoulder to cry on, buy her flowers, call her, text her, tell her she's pretty, tell her she smells nice, put her up on a pedestal. You've been through a life of that. And it came from family, it came from your mom, it came from Hollywood, it came from sitcom TVs, it comes from marketing campaigns that make men look like bumbling idiots and women, the fantastic hero, the queen of the world sort of thing. So it just takes time. It just takes time. It just takes getting comfortable with a new version of yourself. It takes putting yourself first. It takes asking yourself questions like, you know, like whose frame am I in when I do this, right? If you're with a woman and, like, I still do this. Like, I was in Mexico a couple weeks ago on vacation, little fam jam, family, the girlfriend stuff, and it's like, Mexico has some nasty shit. Okay, there's garbage on the road. There's some shady looking characters, and walking down the street, you just sort of comfortably walk down the street. And I found myself from time to time with her on the outside and me on the inside, and that's not how it's supposed to be.
Mhm.
You want to be on the outside as a man because that's how it's always traditionally been. Like the strong, masculine, virtuous guy is there to protect her because she's the woman. I'd rotate, I'd spin her around. She'd recognize it. I mean, she knew what I was doing, but it's these little things, dude. And it's not just, oh, I read a book or I learned about alpha fucks and
Yeah.
beta bucks, or women will break rules for the alphas, but they'll make them for the betas. And, you hear all these sound bites and they're all cool and everything like that. And it's just easy to sort of memorize them, sort of thing. But it's applying it to your life that's going to get you to level up. It's going to get you to the next level of achievement, if you know what I mean. Like, what are you struggling with? You said you just had a pretty bad breakup. So what happened there? Tell me about that.
I think the best thing when you say what I'm struggling with, I mean, obviously mindset's a huge one of the beta conditioning. That's all. I don't want to go over the same thing we hear over and over again, but the one thing that hit me the most was in your book when you talk about the feelings of PTSD.
Yeah.
That's kind of like what I feel with women right now. Is like when it comes to that trying to be intimate or be funny or talk to them or any of that stuff, you just almost get that PTSD. So I'd say in all other areas, I'm doing fantastic, right? Like I've really been crushing the gym. I started investing, like I said, the 10% group, all the other areas are going really good. But with
Mm.
women, there's that like PTSD aspect of it that's
What do you mean?
really,
Like you have ongoing PTSD from the last relationship? Like, is that what you mean?
yeah, probably like, well, one itis is, I guess, the big word too, is like, I can't say I honestly, like, yeah, of course I miss her, like all those things, of course, right? But I can't honestly say that I'm like, oh, I need her back right now. Not at
Mm.
all. It's more so it's still affecting my ability to move forward and progress in, let's say, spinning plates or anything,
Why
right?
did like did she do something? Did she cheat? Like, what did
Yeah,
she do
so
exactly?
I mean, I don't have confirmation, but I mean, you can look back and kind of see what happened. So she monkey branched essentially, right? So
Mm.
I was really good in the beginning, and then over time, 6, 7, 8 months in, it started slowly going off, and then she suddenly didn't have time, and then she ditched me a couple of times and said she had a baby
Mm.
shower, and then later told me she was out with friends at the club, right? Like, and
Mm.
just like those types of things, and then she had a male friend she had over to her house for coffee one time. So and I
Mm.
and I was like, no, like I'm done. I'm not dealing. Like I had enough knowledge in that moment that that was a boundary that I couldn't, and then she
Mm.
pulled back. But essentially, it was monkey branching, and then eventually she broke up with me. We had a fight. I have a son; she has a son, so single mother.
Mm.
Um,
Were you
our
married
sons were
before?
no, I was not. No,
Okay.
I had a bastard child. No, my
Mm.
son's awesome. But anyways, so the kids weren't getting along. She tried to pull her kid away from my kid. We had a big fight. Then she breaks up with me, right?
Mm.
So I'm like, okay, whatever. I was kind of relieved. I was like, okay, we got shit to work on. And then like a couple months later, she like reached out to me and sent me a text message that she's over me. She's in a new, happy, committed relationship now. She wants to make sure I'm, right? Like it was the cruelest thing anyone's ever
Mm.
done. So it really kind of threw me off in a frenzy, right? Where it was like,
Mm.
fuck, because I cared about her, and all the things you say make sense. You think you have this how do you say it when you
Relationship
put
equity.
yeah, equity, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then like it just shits on you, right? It's my first experience with it, so it really fucks with you, right?
Mm.
So that's kind of this part where I'm like, I don't want to get into intimacy at any point because I'm afraid of that, right? So it's like getting over that.
How's everything else in life, man? Is work good? You make good money?
I work for an insurance company. I think I just got my T4s like 75K last year. Like I make a living. Like it's
Okay.
not where I want to be, but I'm able to provide, right? I take care of my son's mom as well too with some child support and stuff. She's actually been really good through that process, which is
Mm.
nice. Um, but yeah, it's more so just that kind of PTSD with women. That's the only thing.
If you would rate yourself on a score of 1 to 10, with 10 being the best version of yourself and 1 the worst, where would you put yourself?
I want to say 6.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not going to find, I mean, you've read my book, right?
Yep. A couple
Yeah,
of times.
there's a chapter in there where I talk about dating, and like you're not going to find you're going to have a great experience with women responding strongly to you and being reciprocal if you're only putting yourself around a 6. Like I think in the chapter on that I said don't really bother with chicks unless you're at least a 7 or 8 out of 10.
Okay.
I mean, you can improve the optics of attraction with great photography, but you can't goose yourself, right? I mean, if you only believe that you're a 6 or a 7, then you're only going to see yourself as a 6 or a 7. So you have personal work to do there yourself, which is going to pay the biggest dividend, right? Like you hit the road running and it's all for you. It's not to get girls, it's not to attract more girls, it's for you. It just so happens that women will be a byproduct of you going from a 6 to an 8. Imagine how much your life would change if you weren't a 6 and you were an 8 or a 9. Like you're a good looking dude, you look like you're in good shape. You obviously have some things to fix, right? There's still some limiting beliefs that you have in your head. See, did you ever hear the bit that I did with Sean on the safe world theory?
No, I don't think so.
Just give me a second. So we build this house of cards in our fucking head about this safe world, that you create for yourself. Oh, if I invest in this gal because she's got a son and I got a son and I take care of them and we go out to dinner and I protect them and, I dress up and I look good and all that sort of stuff. My car's clean. I change her oil. I put on her summer tires in her winter tires. Like if I do all these things, then you build this big fucking house of cards around the whole notion, which you think is like a concrete building. It's like a safe world, right? And everything within it it's all good, firm, and strong. The thing is, though, is that women come in all the time and they kick this thing down, and it doesn't take much, right? Usually it's a sequence of some things. For you, it was suspicion. Going out to clubs, having coffees with guys at her house, stuff like this. But you didn't know how to set the boundaries. You didn't know how to enforce those boundaries. You didn't know how to put yourself in a position where you can walk away. You probably don't. I mean, you don't think that highly of yourself if you're only rating yourself a 6 out of 10, right? So you can't have a great experience. You can't enforce those boundaries. You can't get really, what you want if you're not really the best version of yourself. So this always takes me back to your best return on investment is on yourself, right? Maximize what you can control, minimize what you can't control, and double down on what your strengths are. Because, when you start to double down on your weaknesses, some people double down with things that are strong weaknesses, and all they have is really strong weaknesses, right? Like I've had friends of mine that are like, hey man, check out the link to this like surgeon that can make you 3 inches taller by breaking your fucking like thigh bones and like stretching you out over 8 months. And, here's some links to this stuff. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, this is something you can't really change. Okay, sure, you can change it, but all you're going to have now is a really strong weakness, and you're going to fuck up your body doing all this stuff for a couple of inches, right? Like, so, it's doubling down on the strengths and doubling down on the opportunities that you have to improve yourself. What's in your head, the meatball between your ears, and understanding what women really respond to and how to get better results with them and how to game them and how to set boundaries and like deal with the vortex of bullshit that comes with long-term relationships when you deal with women over a longer period of time, because it's a different set of work, dude, right? Like, what is your goal? Is one of the things that I'd be asked, like, what do you want to do? Do you want to have a girlfriend? Do you want to rack up your notches? Do you want to have some experiences? Do you want to get married again, have more kids? Like, what is the goal for you right now?
Well, I think that I heard Andrew Tate say it, and I like it is, I mean, I had my 20s where I partied and stuff and went through the notches, let's say, but
Mm-hmm.
um, the way he said I like is the best is like you have to become a player in order to find the good girls. And
Yeah.
eventually I do, I mean, for my son, I want to have be a good model for him as well too. That's probably my most important thing and all of it. Like my biggest motivator to not go back to beta and all of this is I can't do that to him, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I will eventually do, of course, want to have like a good, solid relationship with a woman to be a good model for my son.
What do you
And
mean do a course?
what's that?
What do you mean by do a course?
Did I say do a course?
I don't know. Maybe I didn't hear you correctly.
No, I don't think like I don't think I said do a course.
Okay. Sorry, carry
But
on.
yeah, no, eventually I do want to have like a good, solid, loyal, loving woman, right? Of course, I think
Mm-hmm.
all men inherently that's what we want. We're the romantics, as you say, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think you have to go through the player phase to a degree to get to that. So
Yeah, you
that's kind of
can't. Yeah, you can't identify gold unless you've dug through a lot of dirt.
mhm.
because you go through
So,
dirt, you go through rocks, you find some fool's gold, you might find some gold in there. And even when you find gold, you still have to polish it, you still have to clean it, you still have to deal with, you know, hundreds of thousands of years of shit that's all in the fucking crevices that you got to get out and all that sort of stuff, right? So yeah,
yeah.
there's some degree of, yeah, you need to be a player if you want to find a good girl, because you can't distinguish good from bad unless you've been around, right?
Hmm.
And you can't get good with women unless you deal with women,
Hmm.
right? And I mean,
I
if
have
you
a
like
kind of
really
theory.
attractive women,
Yeah, I have a kind of
and if you
theory
like
bit
really
about.
attractive women, you can't be a six either, right?
Yeah.
Or
Oh,
you can't see yourself as a six.
well, absolutely. My ex she was a model. She was what beautiful woman. So I get it, right? But I kind of have a theory, a little bit of a theory about how it works. Is I think as men, when we're raised by single mothers, we're kind of wired like women. You know, like when you talk about a lot of the stuff, I think that when I talk about rewiring is we have to rewire the way we think because we've literally been raised by women. So a lot of the way that like don't be aggressive, don't. So I started doing Muay Thai about 4 or 5 months ago, and it
Mhm.
just like unleashes a side of me that I didn't even know was there, like, so I think that it's like that process
Single
of,
single moms are beta factories. What they do
yeah,
is they build a better beta. Even though they themselves are still women, and when they were younger and not your mom, they were like any other girl out there. They wanted to be with the strong, virtuous alpha males, right? Those are the guys that they wanted to be with, but they probably couldn't get the commitment from them. They end up having a kid. Dad doesn't stick around. They push dad away. Any combination of any of those things, who the fuck knows? It doesn't matter. You never really get the truth unless you talk to both sides anyway.
yeah,
But her strategy then is, a lot of these single moms turn their sons into, what's the term? I think they're called husband
surrogate,
sons,
surrogate. I think it's
surrogates,
surrogate.
or
Yeah,
like husband sons, where they
yeah,
basically try to build a better beta out of their son, right? Where they know what they're attracted to, but they also know what benefits them. And depending on how old they are and how financially secure they are, and if they have a guy in their life taking care of them, they might actually try to manipulate you and turn you into the kind of guy that pays for their shit and takes care of them, right?
yeah,
And gives them emotional support and gives them
yeah.
financial support and all those sorts of things too. So it can be very, very problematic for young men when they end up in a situation, where they become husband sons, where, these, like, girls will call them mama's boys, just to
Hmm.
sort of be nice about it. But that's essentially, like the blanket term that women use to describe them, but it's not what the moms call their sons, but they're really just building a better beta.
True. Yeah, absolutely true for me. Yeah.
So yeah, so back to your original
Patience.
question:
You're saying
patience,
patience.
time,
Yeah.
read read some more books, read some Evo Psych, um, keep a journal. Like if you're single now and you're dating and you're spinning plates and you're going to be a player, keep a journal. you know Went out with Becky, she's this old, this is what she did for a living, this is the vibe I got. Most of them never go anywhere, right? Like you'll see them once, twice, maybe after that nothing happens, maybe it escalates, maybe it doesn't. Just make a concerted effort for yourself to improve yourself and do things that contribute to that. Journaling's great for stuff like that too. I'm a strong supporter of guys when they get their shit like fucked up, like like you did. Go out and spin some plates, non-monogamous date, keep a journal, keep some notes, Fig- figure things out. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? Like ask questions of yourself, and don't just sort of like go along for the ride like we've always done in the past, where you just kind of like go with the program that you've been given. Why am I doing it this way? Why did she behave that way? Like ask these sorts of questions when you're texting back and forth. Like if she's doing the witty banter stuff, or she's maybe shit testing you when you're replying, how quick you reply, what you reply with. Ask yourself, if replying with this, is she going to be in my frame or am I going to be in her frame? Right.
Hmm.
Like when you're dating, like one of the simplest things is she's like, oh, yeah, let's get together and let's get that drink. And she's like, I live over here at this intersection. Like, and I'll use Toronto for an example. Like I live in Corktown. So why don't you come down here? There's a cool little, like restaurant at the bottom of my condo. And that would be me entering her frame.
Yeah.
So my response would be like, no, this is the area that works for me. We're going to meet at this place at 8 o'clock, sort of thing. And the closer I can get her to somewhere in the middle or closer to my place, she's more in my frame, sort of thing, which means she's got more desire for me. So these are like some of the games that you're going to have to start to play to sort of get your head around, women that genuinely like you and want to be with you, rather than the ones that are there more on a transactional basis because you can help, with little Billy's homework or zeroing in the scope in his BB gun because his dad's an incompetent loser or he's in jail or something like that. Try to stay away from single moms, by the way.
Yeah. Lesson learned. Yeah.
Unless they're a good fit, like they have a kid that's the same age as your kid and they get along, or they could potentially get along, and she's a good person and she doesn't need you, sort of thing. Like she doesn't need your money, she doesn't need you fixing shit for her all the time. Like there's one exception. I talk about it in my book in the chapter on single moms. I know you read it, so you get the idea.
Yep.
Cool, Phil. All right.
Thanks, Rich. Appreciate
See
it.
you, buddy. I really hope you guys enjoyed that clip. If you want to watch the full-length podcast, you can find that over here, that clip's from. If you're newer to the channel, make sure you hit subscribe over here and pin down below in the top comment. You'll find a bunch of useful links to my website, my supplement line, books, and a bunch of other stuff. Have an amazing day. Peace out.